everyone, it's me, Parager. I recently made this series of illustrations themed around the Pacific Northwest, and I wanted to share some of my process. I'm going to upload a time-lapse video for each of the 3 illustrations and talk a bit about why I picked the species I did. For my first Gryphon of the Pacific Northwest, I picked a chestnut-backed chickadee. This was a bit of a challenge because the chickadee is a small, sort of round-looking bird, and it's hard to combine it with another animal and still keep that shape. But I really wanted to draw a chickadee because these were the first birds I started noticing when I moved to the island. They're so small, but they always seem so fearless. I think if a chickadee tried to fight me, the chickadee would probably win. When designing the Gryphons, I tried to avoid having them look like 2 animals stitched together. I wanted the back and front halves to blend nicely together so it looks like it could be a real creature. At first I tried to combine the chickadee with a squirrel, but I didn't really like how that looked. I wanted the focus of the piece to be on the bird anyway, so I ultimately went with a sort of non-specific feline critter. I also decided early on to put the chickadee in a forest where I could highlight some native flora. Here, my biggest challenge was drawing the plants in a stylized but still recognizable way. If you asked me to just draw a forest without any sort of details, my first instinct would probably just be to scribble my way through a bunch of leaves and branches. But I didn't want this forest to be just any forest. I wanted it to look like it could be a forest around where I live. I've seen some fireweed blooming recently, and I wanted to include it since it's such a striking color. That was a lot trickier than I anticipated. Each flower has a lot of intricate detail, and in a small space I can't include all of it. You really have to think about what shapes and details are important, and it can be really hard to make that choice when you're drawing something like a flower. At least for me, anyway. Other plants I included are western hemlock, sword ferns, vine maple, and some snowberry leaves. And moss, of course. You gotta have moss. Ultimately, I feel like I may have tried to stick too many plants in, but I enjoy learning about them. When you have to draw something, I think you learn to look at it in a different way. And I think it really makes you appreciate sort of the diversity of all the different shapes in the plant kingdom. My training was I was never really a botanist, but I've always been more focused on animals, but drawing sort of forces you to think about the natural world in ways that you might not do so normally. I also layered my canvas so that I could hide the Gryphon in its perch, with the idea that I could make stickers of just the Gryphon. I'm not so sure it works without the background though, and I think it might be too much detail to cram into a sticker. But that's where I now ask you a question. Should I make stickers? Should I make a sticker with the background or just the chickadee? Let me know in the comments. I have art cards of this and my other illustrations available in my shop. The link's in the description, and I'll also have some links to my socials if you want to see more of my art. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time for the Stellar's J.